Have you not listened to episode 47, Wrestling with the Stars with Dustin Starr? Download and listen to now. Here's a clip that you want to mention before we get into the top 10. So go ahead and give me those honorable mentions.
Okay, so these are some guys that aren't on the top 10, greatest opponents or stars that I've wrestled or whatever, but they're guys that were very, very important to me as far as wrestling. So I got to put Outlaw Don Bass. He's my trainer, man. He was one of the original Assassins, the singing cowboy, and he was the first time I ever wrestled Don Bass. I was really nervous, my trainer, right? I go to give him a sunset flip. That's where Don Bass's butt's kind of in my face. He's looking down at me. I'm trying to pin him. He goes, "I got to fart, kid." And then I schoolboyed him up, and his butt was right in my face, and that was the first time I've ever experienced that. Brickhouse Brown, I got to mention him.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's start the party.
Hey, welcome everyone. It's Tuesday. That's right. It's time for Shootin the Shiznit. And I'm going to make it quick and simple. This show went over time a little bit. It looks like total time is going to be about 45 minutes, maybe the biggest episode ever. You can listen to it in 2 days, okay? Listen to it 30 minutes and 50. I don't really care. I just try to get this as a supplement to all the 4-hour podcasts that we have out there. You can also always listen to ours every day, every week, every minute, every hour, every calendar year. All right, so this is episode 54. We're live from STS Studios in St. Louis, Missouri. You can look us up on Facebook, Shootin the Shiznit. You can look the Cool Kids and Wrestling MMA Facebook group. That's our group. The Shootin the Shiznit is our official page where you can buy merch and all kinds of stuff. You can listen to us on Stitcher, iTunes, Player FM, Pod Paradise, and Spreaker. Thanks to Suplex City Limited's creative control, Bob McGee, keeping it 100. And thank you for listening. Go out and tell a friend. And let's go ahead and bring our guest into the show. Hey, I'm going to bring my guest from the green room. He's sitting over there eating milk and cookies or drinking a cold beer or whatever Will Gibson likes to do. We'll let him do it in the green room, just so you stay PG, okay, Will?
Sounds good.
We'll bring Will Gibson. Hey, Will, me and Will's known each other for a long time, so as everyone knows, I bring guests on here either I've known you for a long time, or I don't really know you. We've known each other and hung out a couple of times with each other, but mainly just see each other at shows. And I'm going to put you over real quick, Will. You're one of the best referees that was in the Memphis area, and by where you went after you left Memphis and everything where you reffing that, it's the truth. So I'm not lying about it because we're friends. And also one of the people, I want you to know something. This guy is, I guess the best word is respect. Every time I came to a show, he made a point to either Facebook me after a show, especially if it's we hadn't seen each other in a long time in between shows. He's usually busy as hell, and we just say a few words with each other. But, man, he always sends me a message offline, or even right there on my Facebook says, "Great seeing you, BT, blah, blah, blah." So, much respect for you, Bill. Bill. Here we go. Now, I want to first, just a few minutes we'll spend with you, and we're going to do our version. It's real popular, the Wrestling with the Stars. People seem to love that, where we give the 10 people, and everyone, Dustin did one. We had a Golden Boy do one. So we're going to do yours as Reffing with the Stars. But before we get into that, just a few minutes, tell people number one, were you a lifelong fan of pro wrestling? Did you grow up watching wrestling?
Always, yeah. Of course, I grew up in Memphis. I moved to Memphis when I was, I think, 7 or 8 years old. But from the time we moved there, of course, I watched wrestling every Saturday morning on, WMC TV5. Went to Monday Night Wrestling down at the Coliseum. Had a different, I guess, view of it than most people, because, at the time my mother, was with, Ricky Gibson and of course Robert lived with us, and, we lived in Memphis for a while, but we lived in St. Louis, we lived in Kansas City, we lived in Nashville, but we ended up settling in Memphis. And, wrestling was a huge part of my life. It was, something that, especially in Memphis, if you lived there, every Saturday morning you got up and you turned on the TV, and that was what you did on Saturday morning, was watch Saturday morning wrestling at the studios.
Amen. And that's what I tell everyone. It's like, that's what every kid did on Saturday morning. It was cartoons. As soon as the cartoons went off, we watched Memphis wrestling. And so so you kind of grew up around it. I understand that part, but what made you say, hey, I'm going to be a ref instead of a wrestler?
I didn't actually get into the business until I went into the military. I was in the Navy, and when I got out of the Navy, I kind of bounced around for a couple of years, and then I decided I wanted to see what I could do in the business. And I talked with Robert and talked with Ricky Gibson, and made sure that they were okay with it, and they were both behind me, and I had their support with it. And I trained with Robert a little bit. I ended up in Dyersburg, doing a lot of shows in Dyersburg. Once I settled in Memphis, as far as with the wrestling, started working in Dyersburg quite a bit. I ran into Mike Murphy in Dyersburg, and he helped me out a lot. And of course, Jarrett King. When I first met him there, I believe it was the next Saturday morning. I was in Memphis at the studio, and I met with Brandon Baxter and Randy Hales, and they put me on TV that morning. And, it just took off from there. I owe a lot of what I've done and where I've, been able to go to Brandon and Randy. If it hadn't have been for them and Derek, I wouldn't be doing a lot of what I'm doing today or what I've done. Between them and Robert, those are the ones that I owe everything to, pretty much.
Right. And you just mentioned it. So if there's not anyone out there that's not getting this, Ricky and Robert Gibson of the Rock and Roll Express, and Ricky Gibson was he married, or was that your mother's boyfriend? I can't remember how that goes.
He was like a stepfather to me. They were together for about 8 years, and he raised me. My real father wasn't a part of my life, so it was I was blessed to have him in my life, and wished he was still around, but he's not, and he passed away back in 2006. And but yeah, I mean, he was for all intents and purposes, he was my father. So
right.
To me,
and you talk about you had a different perspective. So do you think you was just smartened up right at the start? Because I always felt like I was smart to the business to a certain extent, in the sense that I didn't run around and say, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. I didn't do that as a kid. But I knew in my mind there was something going on. I didn't know how. I didn't know how it worked, because I hadn't been, exposed to it until I was exposed around 85 or 86 to what was really going on. But until that point, I was almost certain I knew the work was in, or the fix was in, put it that way, but didn't know. Were you guys smartened up, or did he just leave you, to find out stuff on your own?
He's one of the old school guys. Ricky Gibson was. I mean, he didn't let anything, that was behind the curtain. He didn't reveal anything to anybody. I mean, back in those days, you couldn't get guys to talk about, what was really going on. I mean, that's just the way the business was. Kayfabe was alive and well, and, it's a shame almost today that it's not, but, it's understandable, and, being realistic about it, you have to realize that's how it had to happen and the way it is now. But no, I mean, I wasn't, privy to the business in terms of how it really worked and everything until I was, much older. I actually figured it out on my own. I mean, no one told me anything. Right. And I believed, and, it was great, because I think I enjoyed it more then when I believed. And, until I and let's put it this way: when I got into the business, and I had people that family or whatever, and they didn't know, and they would ask me, I would tell them, I don't want to ruin it for you,
right?
Because
right.
if I tell you, I'm going to ruin it for you,
right?
And
right.
And if Ricky Gibson ever heard that I had told anybody anything, he probably would have, whipped my ass. But I mean, that's how it used to be. I mean, guys believed in it, and it was how it was, and it was how it was supposed to be, and you just didn't tell anybody. And
you're right.
It's a shame. It's a shame that it's not, that way today, but it just isn't. There's no way it really could be. If the wrestling business and the entertainment business is gonna grow, and everybody's gonna be able to work and make a living, then the business has to grow and grow with the times. And
yeah, we talked about, the internet changed the wrestling business. It really did. And, that's what happened. I mean, in 86, when I was getting a dirt sheet and was smartened up, taking photographs, and asked to come, Drew Lawler's the one that said, hey, Brian, won't you come back here? Let's talk, blah, blah, blah. He's the one that kind of let me in the dressing room. And the first thing in Memphis wrestling. And back then, there was nobody in that dressing room. It was me, the wrestlers, the referees, people that set up the ring. There was nobody from the outside. It was always weird to be back there. But if I was with the King, no one said anything to me. As soon as I got walking somewhere else, I heard kayfabe 100 times and told me to get the hell out. But they never said, right. Yeah, Dundee was always, man, get the hell out of here, kind of stuff. And Dutch was weird because sometimes I rode with him to the Jonesboro show, and he wanted me to either come through the front door, or if I did come with those guys, just walk on through and go sit down. It wasn't right. Like, he knew I was smart, but it was to the point there, and that was the early 90s, so still we had a lot of kayfabe going on. Okay, me and you could talk bullshit here, and let me tell you, I'm going to keep it PG today. Sometimes I do keep it R, but me and you have a couple of stories. I might have to bring you on, talk about that. We have a story that was, one of us walked into a bachelor party, and had to do with me kissing some black man. So we'll tell that story some other time. We're just going to leave. We're just going to leave it right there. I don't know if you remember that, but
I don't remember that, thankfully. I'm almost afraid to ask who it was, but I think I've got a good
clue. Yeah. All right. So we're saving that story. So everyone, somewhere down the line, if you see Will's name back in here, then we're going to talk about the Bikini Club story. Not strip club, it was Bikini Club. So there we go.
Right.
All right, so Reffing with the Stars, we got 10 guys. I reached out to him. He sent me 10 guys. We're going to talk about those 10 guys, and we do it in rapid format, just like we do the Cool Kids Countdown, and just like we've done the other Wrestling with the Stars. So let's start with number 10. You've picked him, so let's talk about him. Chavo Guerrero.
Yeah, Chavo, I've been fortunate enough to work with him a handful of times and be around him at different shows over the years, but I worked with him last year at Oklahomania in Oklahoma, and different shows on the Indies a couple of different times. But every time I've worked with him or been around him, for that matter, I mean, Chavo just has. I have the utmost respect for him, just for the family history, obviously, the work ethic he has, and he's just a stand-up guy, and he's done a lot in the business. He's been consistent with being able to keep a job and support his family, whether he's working in WWE or back in WCW back when he was there, or on the independents or whatever. He's stayed consistent, and he's just a stand-up guy, and I've always had just so much respect for his work inside the ring and out of the ring.
Awesome. And this is number 9. I love this. I love it that you mixed them up with Stars from Now and Stars from Then. I actually like this guy a lot, so I hope you got good things to say about him. Number 9, Rockstar Spud.
Rockstar Spud. I've only worked with him a couple of times here recently, actually. My favorite experience was earlier in the year, I worked for TNT, Tried and True with Crimson, and his show up in Murfreesboro, and or actually, I'm sorry, Clarksville. And we had a show, and I refereed a match between Rockstar and Jeff Jarrett, and it was probably the most fun I've had in the ring in a very long time.
Wow.
And he goes out of his way to make sure that the fans get every penny that they paid, for their ticket. And him and Jeff, they don't have to go over anything in the back. They get in there and they do it the way it was meant to be done, old school. And he's a great guy. He's not the biggest guy in the world, and I think that's another thing that I like about him is, he's made a name for himself when, most people his size, wouldn't be able to make a name for himself, and he's done it, and he continues to do it, and he's just a really great guy. Hell of a talent.
I said, I don't know if I've said it here before, but I have said it, Cool Kids. This guy right here, in the 80s or maybe territorial days, he would have been a manager and been money, especially with that British accent, and people would have just absolutely hated him. So,
Right.
Absolutely, yeah. Number 8, and she's in the WWE now, Mickie James.
Yeah, Mickie, I was fortunate enough to, our paths crossed again last year when she came to Memphis for the Wildfire Wrestling women's show. And I actually spent a couple of days with her, taking her to the TV studios where they were doing interviews with her and to the radio stations, and, just got to a lot more one-on-one with her. She was at Oaklamania as well. And, I've seen her, a handful of times over the years, but, Mickie's she's the hardest working woman in the wrestling business to me. I mean, you can say a lot about the people that have, came before her or who came up when she did, but for the most part, the girls that came up when she did, none of them are wrestling anymore. And she's still out there doing it, trying to making a living at it. And, she's back in WWE, which I think is a great thing. When I saw her in Memphis, I told her that was before, she even knew anything about, WWE. Going back, and I told her, I said, I really think that you'll go back. I said, I think that you'll end up in the Hall of Fame. And, she was modest about it, I guess, and, of course, thank me for saying so or being nice
right.
or whatever, but I wasn't really convinced that she thought that she would be able to go back or be there, but, I knew she would be. And every time that I've been around her, she gets 110% in the ring. She's always going out of her way to, make time for the fans. And, there's a lot of people in the business, men or women, that just don't do that anymore. And,
right.
She's very, on my top 10 list of women, she would be right up there at the top.
Awesome. Good to hear. Good attitude, too. Number 7, Shane Helms, the Hurricane.
Yeah, Shane, actually, before I, had my very brief stint in WCW back in 2000. He was on an independent show that I worked when I got offered the job for WCW. We were in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Me and Del Rios, Spellbinder from Memphis, we went to a couple of shows in Arkansas, one being in Fayetteville. And it was a pretty big independent show. There was Scott Steiner was there, Kevin Nash, Booker T, Shane Helms, Shannon Moore. A lot of the guys that were in WCW at the time were on this independent show. I refereed tag match with Shannon Moore and Shane Helms, and it was an awesome match. And we were in the back, and that was actually when I got offered the job. I was talking with Jimmy Hart and David Penzer from WCW, and I just asked, how does a guy get a job as a referee in WCW? They made a phone call to Terry Taylor. And that following Monday, I was on, Nitro in Little Rock.
Oh wow!
Didn't last long, a few months, but it was a great experience. And back then I had only been in the business for a couple of years, so looking back on it now, I think it was too much too soon for me. With as young as I was in the business, and I didn't know the business as well as I should have, but it is what it is, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I might have changed a few things, but Shane Helms was back then. He was a hell of a guy. He was just getting his start, himself, but he was on TV twice a week, and he was traveling the world, and I've run into him several times over the years, and most recently did a show with where he wrestled Dustin Starr here in Memphis, or there in Memphis rather, because I'm down in Florida now.
Right.
But it was a great match. It was for Wildfire, and it was at the Minglewood show, and we had a blast. And he works hard, and I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves in the business. I think he should be back in WWE. I hope that's where he ends up, and I hope that's where he finishes out his career. I think he's got a lot to offer to the younger guys coming up, with all the experience that he has and all the things that he's been through and the places that he's worked. I'm not sure that being a behind the scenes guy or a manager is what he should be doing. I think he's more apt to be in the ring. I think that's where he wants to be. I think that's what he loves to do, but that's just my opinion.
Well, he's got a hell of a gimmick too, where he could, he can be 100 years old and still have that gimmick with the mask and everything.
Right? Yeah. As long as he stays in shape and still work around in the ring. I mean,
Justin Liger is actually my age, so and I actually move as good as Liger, but no, I'm just kidding. Let's do number 6, Justin Gabriel.
Justin Gabriel. I worked with him with Global Force in the last couple of years in Las Vegas, where we're doing the TV tapings, some of the ballpark shows around the country that we did, and it was the first time I'd actually worked with him. Did a match with him in Vegas, which was probably in my opinion, it was probably the best match on the card that night, and it was great from start to finish. It was fast moving, which is how I like it. It kills me when you get in a match and, it slows down so much that the fans get bored. And, I like to talk to the guys in the ring sometimes, asking them, or telling them, don't lose the crowd. And I never had to say anything, to those guys, in those, at the Las Vegas shows, because, it was upbeat and it was fast paced and exactly the way I like it. But Justin is, he was wrestling as PJ Black then in GFW, or Global Force rather. And, but his career with, when he was in, WWE and, Justin Gabriel, whether it was, in Global Force as, PJ Black, the guy is just so well rounded, and he can adapt to any situation. I think he's going to go a long way. He's got a hell of a future and, ahead of him, but, he is probably one of the most talented guys I've ever seen in the ring, in the cruiserweight division, or for his size, and just a hell of a talent.
I think he's on the shelf now too. He's hurt. I don't know, 2 or 3 things, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Someone tweet me there and tell me whether I'm lying or not. But right now, in between, we're going to take a quick commercial, and we're going to come back with 5 more guys reffing with the stars. I hope everyone's enjoying this episode of Shootin the Shiznit. This coming Thursday, the special edition with Who Wants to Be the Best Shizniter Ever. That's right, this is a game show podcast, a wrestling game show podcast. So guys, do me a favor and listen this Thursday. It'll come right through your iTunes feed, or you can look through it on SoundCloud there. Listen to Who Wants to Be the Best Shizniter Ever. All right, we're back with Will Gibson, reffing with the stars, and number 5 we got Jerry the King Lawler.
Jerry is, what can I say, being, in the business in Memphis and being from Memphis, Jerry's not on your top 10 list, and, something's wrong. He is the king, and he's done so much in the business for so many different people, and, he changed the business. Back when I was going to, the Coliseum on Monday nights and, seeing him against Randy Savage in 1985 in the steel cage, or, him against Austin Idol, and, you know, Tommy Rich, Ricky Gibson for that matter. You know, he is just the be all end all in terms of Memphis wrestling. And, you know, I have a ton of respect for Jerry. Every match, you know, that I'm in with him, it's probably the easiest night's work that I've ever had, because, you know, it's just everything flows the way it's supposed to, and, you know exactly what to expect, and it's just a great time when you work with him. He is, you know, I'm pretty good friends with Brian and with Kevin, and we've done a lot with Kevin over the years with Global Force and with Wildfire, but yeah, Jerry is, you know, like I say, he's one of the best there is in the business, but, you know, by far one of the best in Memphis wrestling.
I agree, and I can remember being at a show where he didn't. And this is the thing about the refs, and people don't understand if you know, a guy walks through the curtains and he's got all these refs, he has no idea. It's good to see a familiar face, because I can remember Jerry at one show saying, "Hey, you're going to do my match, right?" So he didn't know any of the other refs there. He was going to make sure you were doing his match. So number 4, and I know this guy has been real important in your career, especially recently. He grabbed you for the initial, like you said, Las Vegas tapings, and they're actually airing those right now on pay-per-view on the Fight. It's FITE app, Fight app, and that's Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, Jeff. I worked with Jeff over the years a lot, but, you know, like you said, most recently in the last couple of 2-3 years, more so than you know, anyone else. I got the call to do the Global Force stuff from Sanjay Dutt. He called me and, you know, told me that I was going to be a part of that, and I have to, you know, honestly say thank you to Brandon Baxter. If it wasn't for Brandon, then none of that would have happened, I don't think. I didn't get any kind of special treatment because, you know, with the Memphis wrestling or knowing Jeff, you know, prior to the Global Force stuff, I was just like everybody else. I sent in pictures along with a resume and videos, and, you know, a real live resume with references of, you know, people who could vouch for me and whatnot. But I got the call, and, you know, I was happy to be a part of it, and we did the ballpark shows, and of course, yeah, we went out and did, you know, there were three shows out in Vegas. I was able to do 2 of those out there, 2 different times, you know, in July and then again in October of 2015, and it was a hell of an experience, and I had a blast, and, you know, I wish those guys nothing but the best. I would love to be a part of it. I mean, I'm in St. Petersburg now, which is only a couple hours from Orlando, but, you know, the godfather of referees is there with Jeff now in Global Force, Earl Hebner, and Brian is there, Brian Hebner, and of course Stifler. You know, and they've got a great, you know, those guys can definitely handle the job, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for Jeff Jarrett and you know, Karen as well. They work their asses off, and, you know, they put their heart and their soul into this, you know, entire, you know, getting Global Force up and running, you know, without realizing that they would be back in, you know, Impact and taking that back over, and then combining Global Force with Impact, and you know, it's now officially Global Force Wrestling, and they do the Impact shows every week, or, you know, on Pop TV, and I think it's all coming together for Jeff, and, you know, I wish him nothing but the best. If he ever needs me, he's got my number. He knows he can call me, and I'll be there. I mean, honestly, I would be there.
Right,
you know,
right.
If I'm able to be there, I will be. But you know, I think they're going to do really, really well. I think they've got the right group of people. I think they've got the right, you know, with Anthem Entertainment behind them. I think they can really, you know, make this thing work this time, and, you know, better than TNA did. Jeff did a great job with TNA, and you know, it lasted for 14 years. But I'm glad that it changed, and, you know, any time that I worked with Jeff, you know, he treated me very well, and, you know, treated me fair, and, you know, he gave me what he thought the work I put in, you know, he gave me what what was fair. And,
yeah,
got nothing bad to say about Jeff.
The thing about Jeff, and I knew Jeff in another kind of like another life, and the weird thing is we haven't run into each other in probably, gosh, since 94, 95, so that's a long time. But everyone that has come on my show, or everyone I talk to, it's weird because Jeff has such a good reputation with the workers and the staff, but you have I guess you'd say the staff, you have such a fallback from fans for Jeff. They're just, you have like he's, the evil guy, or he never did anything. So it's just really, I'm glad people can that talk about him, that has worked with him, has good things to say. Okay, number 3, we spent too much time on Jeff Jarrett, but hey, Jeff, you can come on the show and we'll take 30 minutes. We're both trying to get Jeff Jarrett, so there we go. Now, number 3, the Hardys.
The Hardys, I was fortunate enough to actually work my first match with both of them at Oaklamania last year, and they were it was a hell of a match, and I had a blast, and I got to talk with them, spent some time with them in the back, before and after, and they've done a lot in this business, especially in the tag team realm of it, and I put them right up there next to the Rock and Roll Express as far as in the Hardys era. I think they are the top tag team of that era. They're still doing it, and they're back in WWE, where I hope they stay and where they finish off their career. Again, they're those are two guys that have a whole lot to offer, and that can give back to the fans as well as to the younger guys coming up in the business. And again, they were just really good to me, and the couple of times that I got to work, I worked with Matt a couple of times individually in singles matches at other places, but it was the first time I got to work with both of them together. It was a highlight, as far as my career goes.
Awesome. Good to hear. And number 2 is Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash. Again, the first time I met him, in person was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, back in 2000 on the independent show. That was before I got the WCW job, and I remember when I showed up in WCW at Nitro in Little Rock. He had seen me that Saturday night before I did a match between him and Booker T at the independent show, and when I was there, he saw me, and I could tell he was looking at, he was kind of staring at me from across the room, and he just happened to kind of walk over, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I didn't know what to say. I said, "Terry Taylor, told me to show up, and here I am." And he goes, "God," he goes, "what's going on around here?" And he walked off, and he cut his head back and looked at me and just kind of grinned, and then he kept walking. So, that was pretty cool. But he's another guy who, he's done a lot for the business, and he's had a hell of a career, and he's crossed over into, movies and TV and acting, and he's just a great guy. I think he's got, a lot more left in him in terms of maybe not inside the ring. I mean, I think he could probably go a match. We don't give these guys enough credit, after they've, had their career. But I think, he's got a lot to offer as well, especially, for the guys coming up, and always, a great guy whenever I've, seen him or been around him. And I have a lot of respect for him and everything he's done.
Awesome. Now, at number 1, and this doesn't surprise me any, and if everyone was listening there at the beginning of your background, would be the Rock and Roll Express. Now, do you have any idea, I'm going to ask this real quick, any idea how many times, maybe just overall, how many times you've been at a show? How many shows you've been at? Do anyone ever keep count of that?
How many shows that I've done personally, or how many shows I've done with them?
Well, just overall, do you ever sit down and say, "Hey, I've done all this number"? Because, we did, at one time I had a running total, but one year in 10 months, we have done 107 dates,
wow.
that is a lot, especially since, it wasn't for WWE or anybody
right.
like that. It was just me and 2 tag teams, and, That's the match. I just gave promoters a match, and that's what we did. So, do you ever keep count of how many times you've been?
I haven't actually, but I mean, if I thought of, just sitting here thinking about it, back in the day, we were doing TV on Saturday mornings at TV5 with Power Pro. We would do a show on Friday night. We would do a show on Saturday night. We would do shows on Sunday. Sunday afternoon somewhere.
Right.
I would have to say, just a guess, this is my 19th year.
Jeez.
I'd say between 200 and 220 shows.
Right. And that's understandable.
Maybe a year. I'm talking about a year maybe, but,
right.
I don't know. It could be more. I'd like to think it would be more because, like I say, we were doing, there was times we would, pulling double shots and doing 2 shows on a Friday night and, hit one early and then get on the road immediately, straight from the ring, straight to the car and drive. I know Robert and I did that a few times, when he would be booked in, somewhere around Dyersburg. We'd book him on a show and then we'd jump in the car and drive to the Peppermint Pond and work there, the main event or whatever. He was in the main event and, we wouldn't get to the Peppermint Pond till 10:30 sometimes. And, but, I don't know about, I'd love to sit down and figure it out. I may have to do that later.
All right. And before we get here's another quick question before you talk about the Rock and Roll Express in general. And these are just coming off my head, and that's what it's about. We're shooting the shiznit. How many matches have you reffed in one night? Some people don't understand. The referees go out for more than one match, guys. So, do you know the total, the amount of matches you've done in one night?
The most I did in one night was 13 matches.
Oh,
and that was because they were doing 2 different shows. It was a taping, and I was the only ref, unfortunately. And
this is for who?
It was. God, who was it? It was actually in the last couple of years. I think it may have been an independent show, not an independent show, but one of the shows for Global Force, the ballpark shows.
Oh, okay. Wow.
If I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure exactly. I know I got a buddy of mine, Doug Markham, who runs. He's a referee out of Nashville, and he did the fair shows for Jeff, and he did. I want to say in a week's time frame, something like 50 some odd matches because he was the only ref.
Crazy.
But yeah, I did 13 matches. I'm not sure who it was for, but yeah, it was 13 matches. I remember because I was counting them the whole night. I was like, oh my God. But it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it and I had a good time, and you get a breather between matches, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Rock and Roll Express for a couple minutes, and we'll get you off here.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Gibson, Ricky Morton, Rock and Roll Express, they've been, longest working tag team in the business, still working today. I think they've been, Robert's been in the business, literally been in the business for 41 years, since he was 16 or 17 years old. And, hardest working tag team that I know of. Got all the respect in the world for both of them. They've done so much for so many. They've done a lot for me, and I love them both more than anything. And the matches, when you get in the ring, the first thing Ricky Morton will tell you is all you got to do is stay out of the way, kid. And it really is that easy with those guys. You're in there directing traffic, and that's pretty much all you got to do. After that, you just make the 3 count, and you're good to go. But those guys are to me the be all end all in terms of tag teams, and they've done more than anybody that I can think of in this business. And I was so happy for them when they got the Hall of Fame induction, and they're working more now than they have been in the last probably 10 years. They work constantly, and I was talking to Robert the other day, and he was telling me that he's booked into next year. So, he's got a full plate, and he deserves it. And, Ricky Morton certainly deserves it. They both got their wrestling schools. Ricky's is in Bristol and Roberts is in Douglasville, Georgia. And, they're teaching, these young guys, and they're teaching youth wrestling camps as well. These young kids, 8, 9, 10 years old, and keeping them off the street, keeping them out of trouble, and they're giving back, and that's what that's what all of us should be doing or trying to do, is give back, as much as we can to the fans and to the business, because I've spent the last 19 years riding up and down the roads and putting in the miles and putting in the work, and not everybody gets to be where they want to be and to do all they want to do, but the ones that have been fortunate enough to make it and make a living at it, you got to give back. If you don't give back, then what are you doing it for?
It's true, and I've always been a fan of the Rockstar Express, even as a kid. Always, I just loved their stuff. The very first feud in Mid-South against Corny and the Midnight. Hey, thanks, Will, for coming on.
BT,
yes,
I got
sir.
one thing, buddy. I'm sorry before I go.
That's all right.
Go ahead. I meant to say this before, but there's a lot of guys in the Memphis wrestling scene that I came up with, and if it wasn't for any of those guys, I said something about Derek King and Brandon Baxter and Brandy Helms, but guys like Wolfie D and Brian Lawler, Dustin Starr, and of course Derek King, Chris Rocker, and all of those guys, Mike Murphy and whatnot, Alan Steele, one of the stiffest guys in the business, man. You get in a match with Alan, whether you're a referee or a wrestler, you take a bump from Alan Steele as a referee, you're going to know you've taken a bump. I love all those guys to death, and those are some of the hardest working guys I've ever met in the business, all the places I've ever been, and Memphis wrestling has always been a staple, in Memphis and in and around the Mid-South area, but all those guys, I owe them all a huge debt in terms of, my career and helping me be the best ref in the biz, self-proclaimed, back in the day. That's what I told those guys, I consider myself the best ref in the biz because I've always said, if you don't believe you're the best, then you're never going to be the best. And that's just the way I've tried to live my life in terms of my career. And they've helped me along the way. And I just wanted to say to those guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you've helped me do. And to you, BT, I appreciate everything, and I appreciate you having me on the show. And,
hey, do something for me, Will. I always do this, and I forget to do it, and you listen to the podcast. You know how horrible I am. But put your shit over. Will is on Twitter, so go ahead and tell us how we can reach you on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter at 3G Will Gibson. I'm on Facebook, Will Gibson 123. Email is WM.GIBSON123 @hotmail.com.
And I'm booking him, too, so if you're anywhere in the country, you go through me first. I get my percentage, and email. Hey, if you need a damn good ref and you're listening anywhere, hey, he'll fly anywhere. He's ready, but he doesn't make $10 a night. So
I'll fly or drive as long as the price is right. That's all that matters.
There you go. Hey, thanks, Will, for joining us. I want to thank everyone for listening. I do appreciate it. Remember, we'll be right here, same bat time, same bat channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business.